Hi guys, out in Facebook land and YouTube world. You saw the last one we did was the Predator helmet mold. This was just a test. Came out pretty good. I need to work on a couple of things, but today we get to do a Judge Dredd helmet. I've got a mold form here that I'm going to be using, and first off is just a basic clear coat resin layer, which gets brushed in there. And I'm about to do that now. Measure out 100 grams of resin, which is about 3 ounces. So we do 3 ounces of resin. And the procedure for this is 2 coats of 100 grams. You put 1 coat in, let it dry for about an hour, come back out, put another coat in, let it dry for an hour, and then you can put 2 or 3 layers of chopped fiberglass soaked in the resin inside it to reinforce the helmet. And then let that set out. And then once that sets up, you demold it, shape it, primer it, paint it, do all that stuff. I'll get through that here in a minute. I'm just going to work through this process here quickly as I can. Now, if you remember, it's roughly 4 drops of catalyst per ounce of resin. There's 3 ounces of resin, so that's 12 drops. I'm going to put 3 more just to be sure, 1 more. I go like 15, 16 just to go over a little bit, just to make sure. Daggum. Dropping these little cap for this resin thing. Hang on. Oh, daggum. Okay, I gotta set this catalyst up in this jar here because I can't find the cap at the moment. Okay, now you take your stir stick, stir up your resin really well. Then you want to put your chip brush. You can either dab it in or you can just pour it in. I usually pour a little bit in and then brush it around. What you're trying to do is get a thin coat all the way around this thing as best as you can. It's kind of like almost like slushing it. You can slush it, but you really want a good, even coat all the way around on this, as best as you can get it. All the way around. I'll just slush this in here. Because you can rotocast this with your hands, and it'll work, and you can cover the sides and the edges and all that stuff, and then brush it in, thin it out a little bit. You really want to coat everywhere that you can get it. All around, everywhere, on the sides, everywhere. Now this just creates a very thin layer. It's not meant to be a thick, viscous layer. It's just to help set up the form and the shape. You can use a little bit more than 3 grams, but I don't recommend doing a huge batch, because what will happen is the resin will puddle in the middle of the mold on the form wherever it sits. It will puddle down to that, and it will become thick and viscous in that area. So it's not recommended to do any more than, say, 3-4 ounces at a time. There may be people that do more than that, but I'm not going to recommend it. Simply because, like I said, this is supposed to be a thin outer layer. And I have these clamps on here to help keep the silicone, because this is a plaster mold. I could have done a fiberglass shell, which would probably be better, which I will likely do after this gets done. The only problem is I have this setting on its head, and it will dent the bottom. The pressure will dent the bottom and make an indentation, which will deform the helmet. So I don't want that. I don't want to lay it on its side or anything like that. And the thing is that I could put it upside down like this, but I'd have to have some kind of a stand to put it on. Something. That's why I use a lot of big clamps. And let me show you what I do with those. I use some big clamps here, like so. Steel clamps. And basically it just gets right on the edge fringe there. And what this does is not only does it reinforce the fiberglass, the silicone layer, and keep it from, making a mess, but it also serves as a stand where this doesn't sit on its head and get deformed. It stands up like a table, like so. The thing is to have these well proportioned where it doesn't warp, bend, or twist. And that's the whole thing. If I have this thing upside down standing, yes, some resin might drip out. That's okay. It'll run, it'll kind of cover the whole thing. But these clamps have these foot pads, and I put them on there, turn it upside down, and it allows it to sit in its natural form to be able to do that. Now, if it, for some reason or other, the thing decides to, give way, that's why I have to get these proportionally correct in placement, so there's no deforming of the helmet whatsoever. So I usually put 3. I put 1 on the back, 2 on the front. That way it's kind of evenly spaced for weight, and it holds up to be able to stand on its own while that resin is curing. Now, in about an hour, I'll come back out, and we'll go from there and do another brush up layer like that. Then we'll cut some chopped fiberglass, soak that in resin, lay that on the inside, do that 2 or 3 times, and then when that completely cures, demold it, we'll have a helmet. Then you just trim it up, do all that stuff, and prime it, paint it, and boom, you have it. Okay? So I appreciate you guys watching. This is just the starting out part. We'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll see where we go from there. Thank you.